terrible echo now.
All right, so we're getting messages at terrible echo. Is that still the case? Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. Horrible, horrible. People are just telling, oh boy. Well, that's direct feedback if I've ever seen it.
Better now.
A robot voice, okay. I am going to try to switch the audio. Just bear with me for a minute. I don't know. See, now I'm getting conflicting feedback. Oh. Okay. All right. Bear with me. I'm going to. Okay, how's this sound? Testing 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me? Is there still an echo? Okay. All right. Well, we're going to have to be flexible here at the BDCC as we do this. So I'm going to encourage the presenters to unmute for their portion of the presentation. So what we were trying to do is let me start the recording and then, or did I already do that? I started the recording. Okay. So hi, welcome everyone. You are joining the CDBG-CV round 2 webinar. We're going to go through the eligibility requirements and tell you about the program. My name is RT Brown. I'm with the Brattleboro Development Credit Corporation. So we are, what's that? So we're trying something new, which is, you might notice that the PowerPoint slide has captioning turned on so that we can help support folks that might be hard of hearing. So we're going to try to talk slowly and work through this using this piece of technology. Again, this session is being recorded so that people can review it as needed. I'm just going over my notes here. You can turn, just to cover some housekeeping items, you can turn it on and off your video in the left-hand corner. I'm being prompted to go to the next slide. Thank you. So we have probably about 30 minutes of content that we're going to review, and then we'll open it up for questions and answers. The preference is that you put that in the chat so that we can make sure that we capture everyone's, and if we're not able to get to a question, that we can capture it and then post it in the frequently asked questions section of the help section. Now I'm going to do something which I've never done before, and I'm going to ask a question through the poll mechanism, which is, where is your business located? So what county? And I can see that people are completing that. Real time. Yeah. Okay, so we're at a pretty close, even split. I'm going to give it another 5 seconds, and then I'll close the poll. And then I'm going to transition to my colleague, Bobby Kilburn, to really kick things off. All right, I'm closing the poll now. Thank you for participating in that. Okay, I've just shared the results. So it looks, wow, that's amazing. It's a pretty even split. Oh, so something just happened. All right, so I'm now going to transition to Bobby Kilburn, and I'm going to mute my microphone. See, this is, it drives me nuts. Where did that little thing go? When you're sharing, it does. Go for it, Bobby.
All set, RT?
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you, RT. Hopefully everyone can hear me okay. If not, put that in the chat and let us know. So I want to welcome you all and thank you for joining us today for the kickoff of round 2 of the Vermont Sole Proprietor Stabilization Program. Before we jump into the meat of today's webinar, I'm just going to take a moment to thank and introduce today's presenters and some other members of the planning team who assisted and really were at the forefront in setting up this round 2 program. If you're able to, when I mention your name, just give a wave out so they can put faces and names together. Again, I'm Bobby Kilburn. I'm the Director of Finance and Grant Management for BDCC. And the others, my other team members from BDCC are RT Brown, you met him. Erin Pursuit is here with us. She will cover eligibility requirements and the related program timeline. Chris Plante is going to let you all know what you need to be ready to complete your application prior to sitting down to doing so. And she'll also provide some examples of needed materials so that you'll have something to reference. Closing out our BDCC team is Pearson Brown, our resident YouTube star, who will get you started and provide tutorial opportunities, which are located at the website in the help section. Also joining us today, I believe she's here, is Ann Kroll. She's the Director of Grants Management from the Agency of Commerce and Community Development at the state of Vermont. And then we have the Two Rivers team. They are partnering with us to administer this program. And I believe joining us today is Sarah Raitt, Kevin Geiger, and I haven't seen them, but if they are here, welcome, Jake Palant and Peter Gregory. There'll be a number of us available during the question and answer portion of today's webinar. So please put your questions in the chat and we will try to get to as many as we can. If we aren't able to address them all, we will make sure they're included in the frequently asked questions section of the website. Finally, before speaking about the program itself, if you have an interest in how round 1 went, I would ask someone to put in the chat the link that you see here on the slide. This slideshow will also be made available on the website, so you can go back and reference it. But it's a nice story map as to how round 1 went, who was involved, and then some demographics as far as who was involved throughout the state. Next slide, RT. So what is this program all about? This is round 2 of the Vermont Sole Proprietor Stabilization Program. It's funded with HUD monies that flow to the state of Vermont Agency of Commerce and Community Development. The purpose of the program is to assist sole proprietors impacted by the pandemic who have unmet need as a result of financial harm as a result of COVID-19 financial impacts. This unmet need does need to be documented, which Chris is going to touch upon a little bit later. We will review the eligibility, but again, this program is for sole proprietors who do not issue W-2s. So if you're on this call and you have W-2 employees, I apologize, but you're not eligible for this program. It's also open to S corporations with owner issued W-2s only. So that's slightly different from the previous round. For this funding, following review of your application and eligibility requirements, if you are awarded funds, The grants are issued on a first come, first served basis and will range from a minimum of $1,500 to a maximum of $10,000. There is, of course, no guarantee for receipt of these funds. It is based on your application and the review of that application. I will ask one of my other team members here to add in the chat a direct link to the program's website. It's included here on the slide, and you've all been there since you already registered, but I would recommend that you continue to check back often for additions, which will be included in the Help Center and program updates. Before I hand the presentation off to Aaron, please note that the primary means of communication for this program will be via email. We do not have a call center, so please check your email often. If you have asked a question via email, it would be addressed back to you via email. And once you've submitted your grant application, that is going to be the way that we communicate with you. So I would recommend, if you've submitted a question to us, that you check your spam folder first if you haven't heard from us. In round one, we did have a number of folks that our emails went to their spam folder. So please check that first. With that, I'm going to pass it over to Aaron and say, take it away.
Okay, hello everybody. Let me take my mask off. We just had a little
Are you unmuted? Just to be sure.
let's see. Can you hear me now? Yes, okay, great, thank you, as we work through all these little technical subtleties. So my name is Erin. I'm going to be helping with some of the administration of these grants. So I'm going to just run through the eligibility requirements and then talk about the timeline. So as you can see here, these boxes with the asterisks, these are requirements that are new or different from round one of this funding. So these indicators, this is money for low to moderate income households. Your business needed to be legally established prior to or as of March 15th, 2020, so last year. These are for sole proprietors, Vermont residents. You must have a physical establishment here in the state of Vermont. Your business is for profit. You are in good standing with the state of Vermont and the federal government. And your annual gross revenue is greater than or equal to $24,450. And then we have sort of this past or expected eligible expenses for the grant amounts, $1,500 to $10,000. And this money is sort of to pay for business expenses that are due to the hardships of COVID-19 or a possible pivot project, and we will go into that in a little more detail later. And your business is also not an excluded business type, and those are cannabis-related businesses, if federally prohibited, businesses owned by people under the age of 18, businesses that are a franchise or a chain, lobbyists or people operating as independent consultants, contractors, or providing services to a single entity. And I believe that covers everything on this slide. So you can advance to the next one, RT. And this is a little overview of our timeline. So here we are today, April 1st, 4 p.m., going through the training. April 5th at 9 a.m., the application will go live. And then as we mentioned, this is first come, first serve funding. So the application will close on May 26th at 5 p.m., but that may be subject to change depending on sort of how the money gets shared. And I think that's everything on my end. So I am now turning it over to Chris to talk about what you need to have ready on hand. Thank you.
Hi, I am Chris, and I am going over what you need to have ready to complete the application. So I will start by saying that all documents that you upload need to be a PDF. The first item you will need is a current driver's license. If you do not have one, then you will need some kind of mail that proves your address showing you are a Vermont resident, like a utility bill or property taxes, something showing your residential address. You will also need to have a DUNS number to submit the application. If you need help with getting a DUNS number or creating or merging a PDF, you can visit the Help Center on our website, which has some tutorial videos. You will also need your completed 2018, 2019, or 2020 federal tax returns as filed as applicable. So if your business started in 2019, then you will only need your 2019 and 2020 tax returns. A few items of note: we only want your federal tax returns. Please do not upload your state. They also need to be the complete tax returns, not just your Schedule C or whatever is equivalent for your business type. And your 2020 tax returns are not required to submit your application, but you will not receive any funds until we have them. You will also need invoices, proof of payment, and or support for pivot projects. So I will show you some examples in the next couple of slides of those, but I do want to bring up environmental reviews. If your pivot project, which includes construction, for example, is to expand your business's porch to accommodate better social distancing, then we will need to work with you on getting an environmental review done. You do not want to start your construction project until the environmental review has been completed, as it might not be approved, which means this grant cannot cover it. We will also need support for all duplication of benefits. Duplication of benefits are other funds that you have received due to COVID. That is your PPP, EIDL, SBA, unemployment payments, stimulus checks, $600 loan from your brother, CDBG-CV round 1 funding, all that stuff. The application will prompt you on what information you need to provide for each. So for example, for PPP, you will need to let us know if you received it, the amount you received, how much you spent, and if there are still unused funds. But for unemployment, you just need to let us know if you received it and how much. Duplication of benefit used for wages does not count against your unmet need. We just need to know that you received it. There are a few duplications of benefits that require support, which I will also show you some examples of in a minute. Next slide, RT. Okay, so here are some invoice examples. I use these from round 1, which is why there is redacted information. Do not redact yours. So we will accept a general invoice, email confirmations with details, Amazon receipts. For monthly bills like Verizon or GMP, we will only cover the business portions of these. If a portion of your GMP bill is for home and a portion is for business, we will look at your tax returns or a statement from your accountant to get the eligible percentage. We will need to see the date the item or items were ordered, the amount, the vendor, and the time frame if applicable, like for GMP, Verizon, Comcast. We will not accept handwritten invoices. And you will want to combine like expenses. So all Comcast invoices should be one PDF. All GMP invoices can be one PDF. You can make all expenses related to your pivot project one PDF, which should help you stay under the 10 entry limit for your cost estimates. So pivot projects are encouraged, and so it's like moving your business outside to allow for better social distancing, or creating a website so you can start selling your product online because of COVID, but you don't have the funds to pay for it up front. This means you won't have invoices or proof of payment yet. So we need to know what you are planning to do and see support for it. That could be a project estimate like you see here, or screenshots with the items, costs, vendor, and description. We will work with you to clearly define your project if you are eligible. Next slide. So, proof of payment. This can be a bank statement, a canceled check, a receipt, or for something like GMP or Verizon, it can be the next month's bill showing the previous balance was paid. And again, this is an example from round one. Please do not redact your information when you upload. Next slide. And finally, we have some examples of duplication of benefits support. For the items indicated on the application, like PPP and EIDL, you will need to upload supporting documents, which can be your agreement, the email confirmation you received, as long as it has the amount, or your bank statement showing the amount was received in your account. And I'm going to say this for the last time, do not redact your information. This is just for the previous applicant's privacy. And the time frame for these costs is March 1st, 2020 through March 31st, 2021. So I will now mute myself.
Who's up next?
I am. Can everybody hear me okay? Testing, testing.
Yes.
Awesome, fantastic. So on the morning of Monday, April 5th, the application is going to open. So for everybody who's been on the Vermont CDBG-CV website homepage, things will shift around a little bit. There will no longer be a link for people to access this webinar as it is happening right now. So after you've reviewed all of your eligibility requirements, either through this video or through the content that we have on the homepage, there will be a Getting Started button right above the income limit calculator. You'll simply click on that and move to create a member login with the email that you would like to associate with your form. And we ask that you use the same email address throughout that you make your account with and that you associate with the form. And once you create a login, you'll be able to access the application via the application page. And then that portal is where you will go whenever you would like to make any updates, or if you save the application, it is where you will return to continue your application. And we also have a tutorial live on the Help Center of the website that can walk you through the process of creating a member login and also where to find and access the application, in addition to submitting a technical assistance request that might be relevant for you and your application process. Okay, move on to the next one. So included in the Help Center, also we have a number of tutorials ready and available. We have a walkthrough of the full application. So it will show you, after you've reviewed the membership membership login process. It can walk you through the entirety of the application, all of the documents that we are asking for, where they go in the application, and all of the fields and information that we are asking for as well. There will also be we will also post a recording of this webinar in the Help Center. So any of the content that you see here will be able to be reviewed. We also have a tutorial for PDF merging. So if you have, as Chris showed before, a number of monthly invoices, we ask that you combine those into one document, and you can review what that process looks like through that video. In addition, one of the requirements for eligibility is a DUNS number, a Dun and Bradstreet's number that is associated with your business. If you do not have a DUNS number, you will need to apply for one. It is not a very long process, although receiving one from Dun and Bradstreet does take a couple of business days. So we ask that you review the DUNS number application if you do not already have one and apply for one. And that's all on my end.
Okay. All right, so we're going to open up for some question and answers. Just a couple of housekeeping things to close this out. Please visit the website. There is a pretty extensive list of frequently asked questions, and I can see a majority of the questions that are coming in are answered in that section under the Help Center. So please reference that. I would also really encourage you all to watch the tutorials that Pearson just spoke about. It is going to walk you through the application in advance of Monday's opening. So you would get a good feel for what you need and what you're going to have to provide. If you have questions, as I said, we do not have a call center for this program, but we do have dedicated email outreach. So if you are a business located in Addison, Bennington, Lamoille, Rutland, Washington, or Windham County, please contact us here at Brattleboro Development Credit Corporation. You can see the email there and ask your question. We will respond within 48 hours at the longest period. It's generally pretty quick. You'll hear from us. If your business is located in Caledonia, Chittenden, Essex, Franklin, Grand Isle, Orange, Orleans, or Windsor County, please contact the Two Rivers Group, and their email is here as well. Again, there is not a call center. If you call our offices, at least here at BDCC, and leave a message, it will not be returned, unfortunately. We don't have anyone dedicated to doing that. All right, so. Oops.
I'm going to stop sharing.
Great, thank you, RT.
And
It won't have the subtitle. I'm just.
Yeah, we know. Okay. So I'm going to start answering some questions. Some of these are probably duplicative. Where can I find a link to the application? As Pearson just said, when you go to the website for this program, which has been put in the chat, and where you went to register for this webinar, there's going to be a big square button that says Get Started. That Get Started is going to lead you into setting up your account. So you will set up your username, which is going to be your email, as Pearson said, and your password. And then once that has happened, it will take you to the eligibility questionnaire to make sure you are indeed eligible for the program. And if so, on to the application itself. Will this video be available after the webinar? So yes, we are recording this. It will be put in the Help Center of the website, and we will also update the frequently asked questions with any questions that we don't have time to answer here today. So that will be available as well. And then certainly feel free, if you have any questions, to send an email to either BDCC or Two Rivers, and we'll happily answer those as well. All right. The question is, I understand what the phrase sole proprietor means as it relates to Okay, so first, nonprofit organizations are not eligible under this program, but if you are a business, regardless of your business designation, so either a sole proprietor, an LLC, as long as you don't issue W-2s, then you are eligible for this program. If you have employees and you issue W-2s, you are not eligible. If you are an S corporation and you have owner issued W-2s, you are eligible, but not if you have other employees. So I hope that's clear. If you were a participant in round one and you are still eligible and have unmet need, you can apply for this grant. I will tell you, to be very transparent, if you receive funds in round one, we are going to look at your application very closely to ensure that there is not a duplication of business expenses that you are claiming. So if you're eligible, feel free to apply, but we will go back to your original application to make sure that there is no duplication of monies that are being covered. There's a question here that I'm going to interpret a little bit. It's W-2 employees as of when. So if you do not currently have W-2 employees, then you are eligible to participate in this program. If you did 2 years ago and you don't now, then you're still eligible to participate, I think is the question. But feel free to put it in the chat if I'm misunderstanding. Single owner LLC with no W-2s, as long as you meet all the other eligibility criteria, at the outset, it looks like you can participate in this program. So there's a question about getting grant and unemployment at the same time. If you are receiving unemployment benefits right now, or you did in the past, you are going to need to disclose that. You will see that in the application. It will be specifically asked. So there's no, you're not ineligible to participate in this program. It's really going to be based on if you have any unmet need. So unmet need is the way we calculate that, just for everyone's understanding, is we will add up all of the funds that you have received as a result of COVID-19, unemployment, anything that has been federally funded. We will compare that to the expenses that you are claiming that you need to have reimbursement for, and we will determine if you indeed do have an unmet need going forward. Let's see. Is there more here? Okay. Oh, yes. Okay. Bear with me. I'm reading as fast as I can. What defines low to moderate income? Please go to the website. There is a testing feature that you fill in. So basically, you're going to fill in what county are you located in, the number of people in your household, and your 2020 household income. You plug all of that in. If it is above the income number that is on that form, you are unfortunately not eligible. If it is below that number, you would be eligible. And it's different for each county. It is based on the HUD family household income, average family household income for your respective county. Let's see, my business is currently closed. I normally have an annual revenue of $29,000. So in order to be eligible for this program, you need to show annual revenue in either 2018, 19, or 20 greater than $24,450. So if you had annual revenue above that in 2018, then you would be potentially eligible to participate in this program. All right. I don't have a physical setting. I go to my clients' homes or businesses. Eligible, please. So in this case, my assumption, and if there's other team members that want to chime in, please do so. You are considered a sole proprietor. You work out of your home to some extent, and you go to your clients' homes and conduct business. That would be considered a physical establishment if you're located in the state of Vermont. So my first reaction is yes, you would be eligible as long as you meet all the other eligibility criteria. I understand you had someone had problems with Adobe PDF folders. If you have a specific question, if you could email either BDCC or Two Rivers on that. The process for applying for this grant is very different than round one. So if you are a round one applicant, it is going to look and feel different. The whole system has been revised. So hopefully we've addressed the Adobe PDF problem. Okay. I generally don't have invoices. My clients pay me by check as our sessions end. So you are going to need to have invoices or some support for business expenses. So there's two ways to access these funds. One is for reimbursement of eligible business expenses that you incurred from March 1, 2020 to March 31, 2021. So we would need something. It could be a GMP bill, it could be invoices for inventory, whatever the case may be. We would need something. And we also need some type of proof of payment. So this question of, I don't generally have invoices, my clients pay me. The clients that are paying you, that's not reimbursing you for a business expense. They're paying you for your services. We're looking at your business expenses that you incurred. Does the pivot project have to be COVID related? Yes. This is a COVID, a pandemic program. So a couple of things. Your pivot project has to be tied to moving your business in such a way that is going to make you more sustainable to continue your operation during COVID times, or for reimbursement of business expenses because you were impacted as a result of COVID. So it has to have a COVID component to it. I think I missed one here. There's a question, are there income eligibility accommodations for domestic violence stalking survivors whose income was negatively? RT, can you make a note to respond to that? Yep. We're gonna need to respond to that offline, so we will get back to you on that. Okay, so some clarification on 2020 taxes. We are requiring, if you were in existence prior to March 15, 2020, we are requiring 2018, 19, and 20 taxes. We're asking for federal income taxes only, not your state taxes. You can submit your application without completion of your 2020 taxes, but unfortunately we will require those taxes prior to you receiving grant monies. So there's a question about if and when funds run out for this program, where there'll be an immediate posting on the website notifying us that funds have run out. So I completely understand the person that asked this question. I get it. So yes, we are going to, as the applications come in, they're first come, first served, we will do our best to keep you abreast of when funds may be oversubscribed. The way this program works is you will have the ability, should you choose to continue submitting your applications in case somebody is determined not to be eligible. It's first come, first served, so it's sort of a rotating basis. But yes, we will keep you abreast of that on the website. So you should, again, check that website because it will be updated as we have information. There's a question about invoices from independent contractors. I'm going to take a shot at just trying to understand what that's asking. If you have a business expense where you are billed by an independent contractor for something and you pay them, if it is determined to be an eligible expense, then we would indeed look at that as a potential reimbursable expense. So it's going to depend on what it's for. If it's an actual invoice, we can accept handwritten invoices, so just keep that in mind. Sometimes a lot of independent contractors will issue a handwritten invoice. Okay, so I mentioned there was 2 ways to access funds. One is business expense reimbursement. The second way is a pivot project. The 3/31/2021 deadline that we're referencing applies to business reimbursement expenses. So if you apply with a pivot project, it doesn't mean that the pivot project has to be completed by March 31, 2021. So would have a different timeline, and that's something that we would work with you on. Can pivot project, so the question is, can the pivot project be to help start a new product under the current business to help bring in more money? Without knowing all the details, I would say yes. If you apply, we would be very interested in hearing from you about that new product and how this grant could potentially support that. There was a question about vendors having to be located in Vermont. So I'm going to interpret this a little bit. Oh, it says for marketing. So if you use a marketing group person located in another state, if it's an eligible business expense, that's fine. The vendors don't have to be located in Vermont. Again, the eligibility for business revenue is $24,450. And that can be in one of 3 years, 2018, 19, or 20. I'm going to pause a minute. RT, can you look at my charger? My laptop's going to die.
Okay.
So if you made $24,450 in either 18, 19, or 20, you should be good as long as you meet all other eligibility criteria. And if you are a new business, we haven't touched on this that much. If you are a business that started in March 15 and maybe you don't have 12 months of revenue, there is a mechanism for dealing with that. So we can potentially extrapolate and see if you would meet the $24,450. Thank you, RT. My computer's not going to die now, so I can keep going, everyone. If you received a PPP loan, yes, you can apply, but you will need to disclose a couple of things in the duplication of benefits section on the application. You're going to need to say, yes, I received the loan, the amount you received, if you've used it all, how you used it. So what did you use it, put it towards, and you will need to upload support showing us that the amount you say you received actually hit your bank account. So as Chris noted, it can be your bank statement showing the monies came in. It can be your loan agreement if you had one, or an email from your financial institution noting the amount. We will work on making these questions available in the Help Center on the website. So this chat won't necessarily be saved, but we will provide answers to some of the frequently asked questions. So there's a question about what is the timeline that this grant covers. So again, if you are looking for business reimbursement, the expenses need to be incurred between March 1 of 2020 and March 31 of 2022. So if you submit a Green Mountain Power invoice for services in February of 2020 that you paid in March, that's not eligible. They need to be incurred between March 1 and March 31. If it's a pivot project, you don't necessarily have to have paid it in full. We can work with you to develop a project scope and take it from there. What is a DUNS number? I would refer you to the Help Center. If you don't have a DUNS number, which is issued through Dun & Bradstreet, you need to apply for one. I would recommend you do that today, tomorrow. It can take up to 3 days to get that DUNS number. As far as why you need a DUNS number, it is a requirement under this program. And just to keep in mind, getting a DUNS number, it's free. It's not going to cost you anything to get it. There's a relatively simple application process. Pearson's provided a YouTube in the Help Center. It really is not that time consuming. So I would encourage you to get it. Once you have it, you have it. Is insurance an eligible cost? Business insurance. Without knowing the full extent of what type of business insurance, I'm going to say possibly. So I would put that in your cost estimates, and then we can work with you to determine if it is indeed fully eligible. Okay, so there's a question about redacting information to protect physical addresses. What I would suggest, whoever put this in the chat, please reach out. I don't know what county you're in, but reach out to either BDCC or Two Rivers. The other item I should point out, and we neglected to mention this, in the application itself, when you access the application, at the very top of the application, there's a blue button that says, I request or need technical assistance. At any point in time when you're completing the application, if you get to a point where you don't know what to do, you can click on that button. It will take you to a form that you will complete that will then go to either BDCC or Two Rivers so that we can help you to finish completing your application. So if you can either submit your questions via an email or through that help function. So the person that asked about redacting your information, please reach out to either BDCC or Two Rivers, and we will help you in answering this question and meeting your specific requirements. So you can start the application process before receiving your DUNS number. Your DUNS number is a required field, so you will not be able to submit your application until you have that number. There is a start-stop functionality in the application, so you can save your work as you go along, but you will need that DUNS number. Can we use money to help hire employees? For the individual that posted that, again, I would ask you to reach out, specifically to either BDCC or Two Rivers. We would need to understand more about this particular situation to determine if this is a eligible expense or not. If someone owes back federal and state taxes, are they eligible for this grant? So I'm going to say possibly. And what I mean by that is if you owe back taxes, back income taxes, and you have a workout plan, then you potentially are eligible for this. So I would encourage you to go ahead and apply. If you meet all other eligibility criteria, you will be required to submit a copy of the workout plan so that we can determine that you're staying current on that workout plan and meeting the requirements to either the federal or state government. S-corps without employees are acceptable. So S-corps are required to issue owner-issued W-2s. As long as you don't have any other employees, you should be good to go. And you meet all the other eligibility criteria. Does the vendor you want to use need to be on the list that was used for round one? Not fully understanding that question. I feel like this person may be confusing this program with the RevTo program, which is where we had a list of eligible vendors. That is a separate and distinct program and is currently closed. But if you have specific questions, please reach out to either BDCC or Two Rivers. So there's a question about submitting tax forms, emailing tax forms. If you have a question on how to either upload documents or you're not sure how to do that, I would either, as part of the application, click on the help button to get some support for doing that. We can do that for you or with you, working with you, or send an email to either BDCC or Two Rivers, depending on what county you're located in, and we can probably help you navigate that. Okay. There's a question, what if our gross revenue is up from 2019, but we have had to go to significant expense due to COVID? Would we still be considered eligible? I'm going to answer that with a possibly. If you meet all other eligibility criteria, and you've incurred significant expense to pivot in some way that has increased your revenue, I would recommend having a conversation with us here at BDCC or Two Rivers. We would need to understand what's going on and what potential project is out there. So I would reach out with some more specific information and questions. So there's a question on creating PDFs. I would recommend that you look at the tutorial on how to create a PDF. If you need help in doing that, on the application in the help section, that blue button at the top of the application that I've talked about, one of the technical assistance requests is help me generating a PDF. So we will happily do that with you. So please reach out either through the help function in the application or by sending us an email, and we can work with you on that. So there's a question about if you have many receipts for the same type of thing. So the question is, can I use tools as an expense, and should I put all those receipts together? As far as using tools as an expense, I'm going to say maybe. We would need to understand that and look at the receipts for that. But if you have multiple receipts, please put them together. Keep in mind, you can only upload, there's a limit of 10 items, and they need to be in excess of $100. So as you go through the application, you're going to need to be cognizant of that as you're putting this information into the application. So determining your income limit requirement, there's a question about if you should count unemployment as income. Yes, you do. That is a taxable receipt of income and part of your household income. Again, there's a question about income eligibility. Please go to the website. There's a nice testing tool. You just plug in 3 different things. You plug in what county you're from, what your the number of people in your household, and what your household income was for 2020, and it will pop up with a number. If you are above or below, it's going to determine if you're eligible or not. There's a question about, is a hemp company considered cannabis related? It is not. So if you meet all the other eligibility criteria, please go ahead and apply. So good question here. Do invoices have to be paid already? The answer is no. If you incurred expenses between March 1 of 2020 and March 31 of 2021, and you haven't been able to pay them because you were impacted by COVID, then yes, those would be potentially eligible as long as they're for eligible expenses. So I would say you can submit your application. And in some cases during round one, what we've done is we've paid the vendors directly on your behalf from the grant funds if you're awarded them. So there's a question, I received W-2 and 1099 as a self-employed proprietor. Are both considered for financial eligibility? So financial eligibility is based on your household income. So if you are located in Windham County and you have 6 people that are residing in your household income is based on what all of those 6 people make. So you need to take that into account for your eligibility. So there's a question, do we document how every grant or loan was spent in 2020? So I'm going to say, yes, you do. The application is going to walk you through this. So it's going to ask you, and it's done in a question-like approach. Did you receive a PPP? Yes, no. If you click yes, it's going to ask you for some additional information. Did you receive an EIDL? Yes, no. So it walks you through very nicely, and it's relatively easy to follow. So in this case, this individual received a grant from Hardwick CAE. It's a small grant from a co-op. There is going to be a section in the application that is going to ask you if you received municipal or other funds. That is where you would put that information, and you will have to tell us how you spent it. So yes, there is a lot of work to put these expenses together. And there's a question about calculating if we will have an unmet need. So what I would suggest for you to do is to take a look at your expenses between March 1, 2020 and March 31, 2021, your business expenses. The best way to do that is to run a P&L for that time frame. Add up all your business expenses. You can eliminate some items that are not eligible. For instance, federal and state tax payments are not eligible expenses. Debt payments for federal debt programs. So if you have an SBA loan, these grant funds cannot be used to reimburse for federal-based loans. So you could back that out, get a bottom line number, then add up all the funds that you've received for COVID related. So if you received a PPP, an EIDL, anything else. If you use your PPP, EIDL, any of those types of funds for wages, you do not get docked. It doesn't impact your unmet need. So add up all your business expenses, add up all the funds you've received, take the difference, and if you have an unmet need. If it's greater than 1,500 and you meet all the other eligibility criteria, I won't pull any punches. There's a lot of work that goes into this grant. So you need to make that cost benefit analysis to see if it's worth, if you feel it's worth your time. I did not receive first round. Is there a clear outline of what expenses qualify? Yes, go to the frequently asked question in the help section of the website. And Sarah Raitt has done a great job sort of putting together an outline of what expenses are eligible and what expenses are not. So please check there. Okay, there's a question on income eligibility. Because these funds are HUD-based funds, they are to be made available to low to moderate income sole proprietors that are eligible for this program. That is determined based on the county in which you reside. So again, if you're not sure if you meet that requirement and it's based on household income, please go to the website and complete the little testing tool. It's in the middle of the website and it's bright white, and you fill in a couple of fields and it comes back and says, yes, you seem to be eligible, and no, you don't. We will be checking that eligibility against your tax returns as well. So just keep that in mind. The tax returns you want are for the business. Yes, we want your business federal income taxes as filed.
Do you want to, so it's after.
Am I almost done?
Probably not.
Okay.
So we can respond.
Yes.
Put these posted. There's one question that comes up a lot about in the income calculator, is it gross or net income that's used? Gross.
Yes, it's gross based on your household income. So it looks like I'm at page 4 of 7 sets of questions. So what we're going to do is go back through all of these questions, and we're going to put them into categories, and we will feed them into the frequently asked questions, and we'll put them as a different section in the frequently asked questions so that you don't have to sort of parse through all of the questions. We'll note those as webinar questions, so then you can just go to that section if you'd like to. Okay. All right. Well, thank you all for bearing with us. It's about 5 after 5, and we will endeavor to post the webinar as well as respond and answer these questions by close of business tomorrow. As a reminder, the application opens on Monday, April 5th at 9 a.m. I would really encourage you to take, I don't know how long it is, Pearson. How long is the tutorial?
Which one?
For the application walkthrough.
About 20 minutes.
Okay, so the application walkthrough tutorial is about 20 minutes. I would really encourage you to watch that. A lot of your questions are going to be answered there, and it will give you a little insight into what you're going to need to have ready on Monday morning, as well as maybe some questions that you need to ask. I will be checking the BDCC CDBG-CV email over the weekend. So if you do have questions, please reach out and I will respond to you directly. So with that, I'm going to bid you all adieu.